Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Not only a massive win for Texas A&M Saturday night against LSU, we said heading into that matchup that, not only is it going to put you in a really good spot in 2024 to make the college football playoffs, it was also going to put you in a really good spot on the recruiting trail in terms of getting a lot of momentum. That is exactly what you're seeing play out Sunday afternoon for Texas A&M. Not one, but two four-star commitments for the Aggies in the 2026 class. And my biggest takeaway by far is we knew Mike Elko was such an elite head football coach when Texas A&M brought him to College Station. We've seen that bear out. Like this team from week one to what we just saw last night, it's a different team. It's clearly getting better awfully quickly. So we're kind of seeing the player development and the program building for Mike Elko play out on the football field. The biggest question we had was, hey, can Mike Elko come into Texas A&M and recruit at the level needed to win at the highest level in the SEC? We've seen that as well. We're seeing it Sunday afternoon. Aaron Gregory, Jordan Carter, two massive commitments. Going to give you guys my takes on both of those, but also talk about like where Texas A&M is going on the recruiting trail. Now, before we get into it, as always, to the Texas A&M fans, y'all can kind of sense the excitement. I got it. Talking about this program over the last 8 months has been an absolute blast. And the amount of support y'all have shown the fellas in the comment section has been amazing. Appreciate you guys more than y'all know. If you guys do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. I'm just going to say this. It sounds like it's going to be a really fun next couple of days and weeks for Texas A&M on the recruiting trail. We'll keep you all updated. Without further ado, let's get into this one. Let's start with four-star wide receiver Aaron Gregory, who he's listed as a wide receiver. From my knowledge, he wants to play wide receiver when he gets to Texas A&M. I think this kid could be a really good defensive back too. And at the end of the day, like this checks the Mike Elko boxes. And what have we talked about with Mike Elko on the recruiting trail? Give me all the traits you can. Like whether it's murky in terms of what position this kid is going to play, I'm going to bet on the superior athletes. I'm going to fill my roster with big, strong, fast football players. And Gregory's one of those guys, 6'3", 170, track and field background. This is a Mike Elko guy. And you take a look at Texas A&M continuing to, I would say continue to find difference makers on the perimeter for this Texas A&M offense. Aaron Gregory is one of those guys. One, the long speed is certainly there. And I would probably argue that, a little bit of a one-dimensional pass catcher as we sit right now in terms of a wide receiver that just kind of runs vertically down the field, which is a great skill to have. I think there's a lot of development that can take place in terms of route running, which kind of makes sense. He's a two-way player at the high school level. He's only a junior in high school right now. But at the end of the day, like, again, what does Mike Elko go back to? Give me the big, fast players. We'll make them good football players. That's kind of what Aaron Gregory brings. And again, I think could be a really good defensive back too. He's one that I am going to pay attention to in terms of what the track looks like, because I think he could be kind of like a Marcus Ratcliffe back there. Like obviously got to put on a little bit weight, 170, kind of a slender frame right now, but he's only a junior in high school. This kid could have a ton of range as like that deep center field safety for Texas A&M. Now you go right into the state of Georgia, Douglas County, and take away a prime SEC target. You're going to go right back to the same high school. His teammate, Jordan Carter, another four-star defensive lineman, also committing to Texas A&M. Now, Jordan Carter, this is another Mike Elko kind of defensive lineman, specifically, kind of that edge defender. Heavy hands, thick lower half, is going to be a guy that certainly can get after the passer, but also going to be a hammer in the run game. That's something that not enough people talk about when you're evaluating edge defenders, and that's something that clearly Mike Elko values, like Nick Scordon. Yeah, Nick Scordon came over to Texas A&M as a very, very good pass rusher, the best pass rusher that we saw in the Big Ten last year, but he was also really good stopping the run. I think Jordan Carter has a very similar kind of build. He's up to 250 pounds, so he's a junior who's 6'4", 250 pounds. The lower half is big. Like this guy has some big, big legs. There's big time power. When I watch the film, you almost think of Miami Hurricane edge rusher Ruben Bain, where he's not the most juiced up first step twitchy edge rusher, but he's kind of a bulldog and he's going to put tackles right into the lap of quarterbacks. And you look at the kind of edge rushers that Texas A&M has. Yeah, you have guys like Cassius Howell, Rylan Kennedy, those guys who can attack the outside shoulder. who's playing the most and who's making the biggest impact. Guys like Shamar Stewart, guys like Nick Scourton, the heavy-handed guys that are collapsing pockets, being dogs in the run game. That's kind of the type of player that I see Jordan Carter becoming for Texas A&M. We say this all the time. Mike Elko is making it such a priority to recruit line of scrimmage players. You go back to the 2025 class, over half of the commitments in the 2025 cycle are line of scrimmage players. I wouldn't be surprised if you see a very similar number for Texas A&M in the 2026 class as well. He's a line of scrimmage guy. That's how he wants this program to be running. Quite frankly, why did Texas A&M win that football game last night? You ran the football for 240 yards. LSU only ran the football for 33. That game was won along the lines of scrimmage. In my opinion, that's the recipe for Texas A&M moving forward under Mike Elko. Last guy I want to talk about, this is not a commitment, but a very exciting player that I do want to talk about. Got crystal ball to Texas A&M. We might be breaking down Brendan Arrington relatively soon. Another difference maker, this time from the state of California. Mike Elko has done a phenomenal job in the state of California. 6'2", 180. Here's the kicker. 10.27 in the 100-meter dash. You talk about big, fast athletes. It probably doesn't get much better than Brandon Arrington. 6'2", 180, could play cornerback, could play wide receiver. In my opinion, this kid, very similar conversation that we had with Terry Bussey. Like, kind of different players, but similar conversation of, hey, what position is Brandon Arrington going to play when he gets to the next level? In my opinion, I'm going to say the same thing I said about Terry Bussey, and that is it's hard to convince me to put this kid on the defensive side of the football when he has that much juice with the football in his hands. I mean, Brandon Arrington, when you dive into the film, he just moves at a different level, at a different speed than anybody else on the football field. And when you have that specialist speed, 10.27 in the 100-meter dash, you all of a sudden become a matchup nightmare, not to mention the fact that he's 6'2", 180, extremely big-bodied as well. Another one of those examples, hey, give me the best athletes that we see across the country. We're going to bring them into this program, make them really good football players. That's Brandon Arrington. Take a look at the class in 2026. I mean, now you got 6 commitments, 3 of which are top 200 players. You got your quarterback locked up, and Hellman, I got to let you guys see this here, and Hellman Kasuga, Jordan Carter, and Gregory. Go to the state of Georgia for 2 kids, trending for a couple of more. We kind of said this, this Saturday night, it almost meant more than just what was ahead of you in 2024. This seemed like a massive football game to kind of set up Mike Elko for future success in College Station. That's kind of what you saw. We saw a very similar thing for Oregon a couple of weeks ago when they beat Ohio State at home in front of a ton of their top prospects. We saw the commitments flood in. You're kind of seeing the same thing play out for Texas A&M. Really exciting time to be a Texas A&M fan. We'll continue to keep you all updated as the commitments roll through. Appreciate y'all rocking with it. If you guys do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys. We'll talk to y'all later. Peace.